Namaste, everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are going on an absolutely wild, fascinating journey together. We're going to start by unearthing the dark, real-world origins of supernatural myths. Then, we'll take a detour through some deeply unsettling and highly relatable ghost stories straight from the heartlands of India. Finally, we'll wrap it all up with an ultimate horror comedy cinematic experience that ties everything together. You are definitely in for a treat with this one.
So let me just ask you right off the bat, do you believe in the supernatural? Even if you're a strict person of science, I want you to just imagine sitting around a campfire, the darkness is pressing in, and someone starts telling a story that makes the hair on the back of your neck literally stand up. That eerie, unsettling atmosphere is exactly what we're tapping into today, because as you'll see, sometimes reality is far stranger and way scarier than fiction.
All right, Section 1. The real zombie origins. Let's look at the chilling history behind all this. First up, we gotta move away from the Hollywood myths and the video game monsters. The whole idea of a zombie, it didn't just pop out of nowhere in a movie studio. It actually has deep, super unsettling roots in our real world. The actual science behind the myth points to a chemical compound called tetrodotoxin. It's an element released from dead plants and animals, and when it's consumed or induced, it can cause a person to enter this listless, aimless, wandering state. They don't talk, they just walk around blindly, literally appearing to be brain dead. Imagine seeing someone you thought had passed away months ago, just wandering aimlessly in a field. That right there is where the terror really begins. And this chilling science, it maps onto a terrifying timeline of recorded history. We're looking at two massive, spine-chilling incidents spaced exactly 50 years apart. These aren't movie plots, guys. These are recorded, documentary-style events that make you seriously question what the human body and mind are truly capable of under the right, or rather the completely wrong chemical influences. Let's look at the first event from 1962. A man falls severely ill, he gets declared dead by doctors, and is actually buried by his grieving family. But here's the thing, he wasn't dead. He was conscious, but completely paralyzed. After his family left, he was exhumed by a local tantric, injected with chemical compounds, exactly like the ones we just talked about, and forced into mindless plantation slavery. It took him 18 agonizing years to escape and tell his sister the horrific truth. His zombie-like state was a deliberate, terrifying tool used to turn him into an obedient slave. Then, fast forward to 2012, to the infamous Miami attack that was actually recorded on security footage. A man exhibiting bizarre, completely zombie-like behavior stripped off his clothes in the middle of traffic and viciously attacked a homeless man. The sheer horror of the event was captured by witnesses. And the craziest part? Even when the police arrived and shot him, he didn't stop. He just kept growling at them with pure, uncontrollable violence. It was so insane that it sparked massive conspiracy theories about secret government drug testing labs gone wrong. Moving on to Section 2, relatable Indian ghost stories. Let's bring this horror closer to home. Because honestly, we don't need to look to Haiti or Miami to find the supernatural. Take the story of Ramji, a truck driver in Madhya Pradesh. One afternoon, he scolded a group of female laborers for resting on the job and delaying his truck. Just a totally normal workplace interaction, right? But the very next day, his leg developed a severe itch. It swelled up massively and turned completely red. No doctor could fix it, and literally no medicine worked. It was entirely inexplicable. So Ramji's employer finally sends him to a local healer, who immediately recognizes it as a powerful nazar, or evil eye. Ramji is sent back to apologize to the specific laborer he had scolded. When he begs for her forgiveness, she delivers this absolutely chilling punchline. She says, "I didn't curse you. I just looked at you. If I cursed you, you'd disappear." And just like that, after she forgave him, his leg healed completely. It really shows you the sheer, terrifying power of a simple, dark gaze. And you know, we can't talk about ghost stories without bringing up a classic college hostel horror. Picture a 100-year-old arts college built by the British. Thick walls, 15-foot-high ceilings, life-size statues everywhere, and an eerie 11 p.m. curfew for the massive echoing bathrooms. A freshman student goes in late at night to wash his paintbrushes. Now, the bathroom has no latches on the doors, so everyone just sings or talks to announce they're in there. He hears his roommate inside one of the stalls and casually chats with him about their painting assignments. So he finishes washing his brush, says goodbye to the voice in the stall, opens the main bathroom door to leave, and his roommate is standing right there, outside in the corridor. The terrifying realization hits him instantly. If his friend was outside the whole time, who on earth was he just having a full conversation with inside that echoing bathroom? The student did the only logical thing you could do in that situation. He ran, jumped into bed, pulled the blanket completely over his head, and decided that ignorance is absolute bliss.
Sometimes, though, the horror is incredibly personal and deeply tied to grief. A narrator shared this really unsettling story about the sudden death of his young aunt. A few days after her funeral, while the house was entirely empty, he walked inside and distinctly heard the sound of her laughter and the familiar chiming of her anklets coming from her room. He just stood there frozen in terror, literally 20 feet away, staring down a hallway, utterly paralyzed by the overwhelming presence of someone who was definitely no longer supposed to be there.
Which brings us to Section 3, the psychology of fear. Why do we love this stuff?
These stories are terrifying, yet we just can't look away. Why are we so drawn to haunted houses and horror movies? What does this fascination with the macabre actually say about our own minds? Well, a lot of times, we consume horror to escape the very real, depressing horrors we see in our daily news. In fact, monsters in films are rarely just monsters. The Babadook, for instance, is fundamentally a meditative piece on a mother's unresolved grief and depression. Get Out uses horror as a metaphor for slavery and the terrifying loss of bodily autonomy. We're basically using these supernatural stories to process very real psychological and social traumas.
All right, Section 4, Zombies Invade Indian Colleges. Let's talk about the IIZ movie. This brings us to a brilliant modern application of horror psychology in a new film project. It connects directly to the modern Indian education system with a film called EII, or the Indian Institute of Zombies. The plot is a highly relatable comedic masterpiece. It perfectly contrasts two groups. On one side, you have the top students, the hyper-competitive overachievers who've been totally brainwashed by corporate placement talks. In the movie, an evil director feeds them a superhuman serum that spectacularly backfires, turning these homogeneous, profit-chasing students into literal, fast-moving zombies. On the flip side, you have the backbenchers, the guys skipping class, chilling on the roof, and entirely uninfected simply because they never bothered to show up to get the serum.
The real genius here is the social commentary hidden right within the comedy. As the creator noted, the original idea of a zombie wasn't a fast, flesh-eating monster. It was a lifeless, purposeful thing that could be easily controlled by a master. And if you think about it, that is exactly what the hyper-competitive B-school environment does to students. It takes brilliant minds and turns them into homogeneous, controllable corporate zombies.
So, who's left to save the college? The backbenchers, obviously. And how exactly do they survive? Well, for starters, they were hanging out on the roof, far away from the academic danger zone. They know exactly how to sneak food from the canteen at 8:30 p.m. They have incredible unity. Like if one guy has a leaked exam paper, they share it with everyone. They are absolute masters of jugaad, or improvised problem solving. The ultimate irony of the movie is that the college's only hope for survival rests entirely on the shoulders of the students who spent their whole academic careers avoiding responsibility.
And finally, Section 5, the magic behind IIZ. Let's peek behind the filmmaking curtain.
Beyond the incredibly fun story, the filmmaking process itself is fascinating. They couldn't afford to build massive sets, so they used a highly innovative AI approach. They found a massive, real-life college campus in Nashik. Step 1, they 3D scanned the real physical location. Step 2, they fed their original, practically shot camera footage into an AI. And Step 3, they generated seamless visual effects natively right within that scanned environment. This meant they didn't have to create a fake world from scratch. They just enhanced a real one. It allowed them to show thousands of zombies on a strictly indie budget, a real game changer.
And it wasn't just for massive crowd scenes either. AI actually solved everyday, practical problems on set. For instance, they needed actor Shantanu to look like a convincing cop. Instead of wasting hours doing physical makeup trials and gluing on different fake mustaches, they just fed a prompt into the AI. It instantly generated the perfect mustache look tailored specifically to his face. They knew exactly what they were going for before the makeup artist even picked up a brush.
But honestly, the craziest fact about this whole production? 45. That is the incredibly short amount of days it took for this crew to shoot the entire film. From the moment the script was locked, to the actual shoot, to having a massive theatrical-ready movie in just about 4.5 months total. In the traditional film industry, a timeline like that for a film of this massive scale is practically unheard of. It's wild.
So, why should you check this film out? Well,
It's a smart, young zombie comedy that totally swings for the fences with huge ambition. It features a completely fresh Bollywood sound created by a brilliant Malu composer. It delivers massive scale with thousands of infected students. But above all, it has this chaotic, incredibly fun energy that makes it the absolute perfect experience to watch in a theater surrounded by your closest friends.
I'm going to leave you with one final, provocative question to think about today. If a zombie apocalypse hates your college or your office right now, honestly ask yourself, are you the hyper-focused, brainwashed topper who gets infected first, or are you the laid-back, surviving backbencher chilling on the roof? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, and I'll catch you next time.